Hello, everybody. Welcome to this volume 41 of the Cult Bar. How are you, Renee?
I'm good.
Good. So, we got a lot to talk about tonight, as usual. So, let's start with the drinks. What are you drinking on that very sweltering day where you are?
Well, one, my handy dandy Red Bull, which I was just actually being made fun of by some of my friends last night for how often I have a Red Bull in my hand and how big they get. Because I'll get it like, the biggest one they sell. Anyway, but then also I got a Oaxacan old fashioned, which I've been dying to try. It is mezcal, reposado tequila. My garnish is falling off, so we're putting it in. Agave syrup and bitters. And it's supposed to be orange instead of a lime for garnish, but I didn't have any oranges, so.
Citrus. Not quite the same citrus, but it works.
It's great. This is great. So I've been on a Paloma kick, but I might be drinking these instead of Palomas now.
So you said it's an agave?
Agave syrup as opposed to simple syrup, yeah.
What kind of tequila did you use, if you mind me asking? Is it reposado?
I used reposado, and I used my husband's Fronteza, which made he was so upset because it's like one of his nicest bottles. I was like, I'm in a hurry. It was the tequila that was out here.
Well, hey, it's for the cause, all right? It's for the cause,
I guarantee you it made this better because it's basically just alcohol. So you have to have a smooth tequila.
Yeah, you can't have like having like a mixed drink where the vodka is like the prominent one. And if you have really shitty vodka, it's just going to taste terrible. So
his point was we don't have any cheap tequila, so I didn't have to use that one, which is fair. But don't leave it on the kitchen counter if you don't want that to be what people reach for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
Fair. Yeah. Also,
we're married. Yep. It's my tequila too.
Yep. Your tequila, my tequila too. So
totally fair because he hates whiskey, so he's never going to drink any of my fancy whiskey.
That's a shame. Anyway,
what do you got?
I went pretty simple. I went with a gin and tonic. I got Aviation Gin because it's relatively inexpensive and it's a decent gin. It's not great. I was tempted to get the Botanist, which is my favorite, but I just didn't feel like spending the money on that. And I use lime tonic water because I like the lime flavor and obviously limes and some ice cubes. So I know this is going to hit. I've had this more than a few times. It's also time of year for gin and tonics for me because it's warm.
Yeah.
And after the day I had, which you and I had a discussion offline about, where I had to replace a water heater, which was not cheap. So I needed something a bit more, with a little more oomph. So I picked the old gin and tonic. So it's delicious. I love a good gin and tonic. I believe you do as well, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
I
do not.
Your husband does.
No, my husband does. I only like gin in very, very specific cocktails. I'm not a big gin drinker.
See, I like the different styles of it, so it depends. But apparently we have. I take anything off the counter and we send to eat drink.
But the real comment from Zach is the one following, which is he wants to make sure that we understand he does not give his child alcohol.
Sure, Zach, sure. His kid's near the age, though, I think. So, yeah. He's definitely of an age where I definitely had alcohol by that point. So,
yeah. I mean, I was straight edge in high school, but
yeah. Well, I wasn't, but I didn't start drinking until I was a senior in high school. So,
I was straight edge in high school, and this is my third alcohol-based podcast / live stream of my adult life. So, and we're down great.
You're making up for lost time. That's all. Yeah. The problem is now when you drink it, you can't drink it to the level that you would drink it at the age when you were a straight edge.
But that's fine because because now everything I drink is expensive and good because I don't drink a lot of it and I'm not trying to get drunk. So
G&T, baby. Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
I feel like, oh, I feel like we're like stalling more than usual because this one was very intense. It's got a lot
Yes.
of difficult things to talk about in it. Um,
Yeah, but
it,
we
it escalates quickly.
but before we get to it, let's we have to do our normal little news thing. So let's get to that. All right, Renee, have at it.
Yeah, so this is just an article. It's kind of recapping an interview that was on CNN with three of the survivors from the Tony Alamo cult, which we covered a while back.
Mhm.
This is when they were making jackets and all that. Lots of child labor, lots of abuse. And it's three siblings, one of whom is named Matthew Broderick, which I found
Wow.
amusing. Yes, he's a paralegal, not an actor. But yes, it's Alexis, Shania, and Matthew Broderick. And they talk about, I encourage you to like go read the article because we're not going to be able to get into like tons of detail. A lot of it was covered in the documentary, but it's their specific experience with times where Tony Alamo, randomly punched one of them in the face, where they were, living in fear all the time of upsetting him, disappointing him, living in fear of the government coming. And Alexis was 10 is when the FBI raid came, which I
Mhm.
believe that was the result of like a missing child that was living there, right? There's like a custody battle.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So she was 10 years old when that happened, and she, sees the FBI coming with all their guns, and she's like, "Oh shit, he was right. Like they're coming, they're gonna kill us." Like that, they weren't thinking like, "Oh, we're being freed," because they were raised in this environment, which, if you recall, was pretty much constant brainwashing, constant physical abuse on the children. Tony Alamo had told Matthew the government controlled everything and were out to get him specifically, like that child, out to get you, not like us. Also us, but I just think it's particularly interesting when it's like telling us like a child, like they're gonna get you, is so. But we see this; it's a common technique, especially when kids are involved. That, oh, the FBI is gonna come and take the kids away, So
Yeah.
wild shit. I think it's good to hear directly from the survivors whenever possible. So it's an interesting article, and I encourage you all to go out and look for it.
Yeah, I did post a link over in the YouTube stream. So if anybody wants to peep it, that's where we have it over there. So yeah, that was one of, I remember the Tony, Alamo, whatever.
Alamo. You're right. It's
They call
Alamo.
him, they call him Alamo. And I was like, no.
Yeah,
That was a really, I mean, we do a lot of disturbing shit on here. And this one upcoming is one of them. I don't know, but that Tony Alamo one really, that was one of the more difficult ones for me to do on this show because of just how horrible they treated everybody. So,
yeah.
no. All right. Well, now that we started on that bright and cheery start,
I guess it's time for
why don't
our,
you give,
our content warnings.
yeah, you give us the trigger warnings, please.
Okay, so there is going to be uh, spiritual religious control as usual. Um, Lots and lots of talk about racism and specifically violence against Black Americans. There's going to be physical and sexual abuse, um, lots of coercion of all types, and the free labor, stolen labor. And then one of the things we're going to get out of the way up front, I don't think either of us realized this going in, but everything about this cult centers on Black Americans' experience of racism and oppression in the US. And we are, in fact, in case you can't tell by looking at us, two white people. So we're going to do our best. And if we get it wrong, you know where to find us. I would ask for a little bit of kindness in the education if we do get it wrong. Um, But yeah, this is going to be a tough one on lots and lots of levels. And the misogynoir in this is especially intense. So, as always, if this is something you get into it with us and it's making you miserable, just go do something that doesn't make you miserable. Nothing we do here is worth you having a bad night. So,
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. This is pretty much how we should think about.
yes, you say Alamo, I say Alamo.
Alamo. So, yeah. So you're exactly right. I also say there's some implied child abuse too. We get to see some of it, but it's not
Yeah,
like
definitely,
it's not that we see.
definitely, like on an emotional level, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. We'll get into it. There's some really horrific things that happen. And yeah, this is not going to be a happy, cheery, funny episode. We'll do our best, though.
Yeah, we're gonna try to keep it as straight level as we can, but there's some really rough stuff going on here. So, without further ado, let's talk a little bit about. First of all, I want to say Natureboy is kind of a dumb name.
It sounds, I thought, I thought it reminded me of, it reminded me of Paperboy from the show Atlanta, the
Um,
rapper.
yeah, it reminded me of Tarzan Boy by Baltimore, but that's an '80s song, so forgive me. Sorry, it's a bad
And
kid.
both our references are way old, so it's fine.
Yeah, like I would say that to my wife, and unfortunately, she was like cloistered away from uh, any secular music in the '80s, so she missed a lot of my reference there, unfortunately.
Maybe fortunately for some of it, though. Oh,
Yeah.
Nature Boy Ric Flair. I forgot about him. That's two words. Where
Yeah.
this cult's Nature Boy is one word, right? He's
Yep,
very
that is
fond
correct.
of mushing
They
words together.
Yeah, they used that exclusively. Anytime he was mentioned, he called himself that, even on his like YouTube channel, you know. So, so let's do a little bit of a start here. So with Nature Boy, basically, he was, I want to say he started out in Atlanta, and he owned a barber shop or several barber shops or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And then he decided he wanted to get out of that. And so he garnered enough money and he moved to Costa Rica, the land of tropicalness. And he starts doing these
Wait,
videos. Go ahead.
he
Sorry.
started he started doing the influencer thing before he moved. If you remember,
Yes.
he was doing these videos about preparing to go live in nature in Costa Rica. So his goal was, you know, eating like basically just fruits and vegetables and things like that. And he would do videos about that, like living without a refrigerator, living without anything, to drink but water in a preparation to go do this thing.
Yeah. I'd forgotten that bit. You are correct. So he did all that and he was trying to raise money to do so as well. So,
Right.
which is, he tries to raise money the entire time, which is, part of the
Mhm.
grift, right? So he gets to Costa Rica. Now he's starting to make videos where he's in nature. And I will say those videos he makes it look very idyllic.
Oh yeah.
Like you're out in a waterfall or like out in the forest with like palm trees, and it looks really nice. And he talks a lot about how he should come here and be in nature. I think the phrase he used to say, go to the sun, I think was the phrase
Mhm.
he used several times. So he just basically, he's also speaking to the idea that black folks should be in nature. Like,
Yeah.
that was a lot of his premise was I'm supposed to be in nature. Let's all be together. Come with me. Let's all do this together. He was trying to create a community in Costa Rica of Black Americans who were just fed up with America. Which, hey, you can't blame folks for feeling
Yeah.
that way.
We're
Correct?
talking about people in the documentary who came to Nature Boy between 2015 and 2017. So
Mhm.
if you can place yourself in that time in American history, it's very when these people who left to join him are talking about, I felt like I had to get out of the United States or I was going to die. Like that is a very tangible, real fear at this time. We had in the years following and all of this, like massive abuses of power at Black Lives Matter protests. We had constant television coverage of Black people being murdered by the police. Like, it was a very intense time. 2016, Trump is elected president. Like, there's so many things. I feel like the fever pitch of open and unabashed racism in our country was like everywhere you looked.
Mm.
And that's saying that is as a white person who's not being immediately affected by it the way that a Black person would be. So I'm sure it was like with more intensity, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's important to place this in that time and
Mm-hmm.
the events that were happening, because it starts to make a lot of sense when you remember what was happening in the US at the time that these people were like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, I feel like a lot of people felt that way, and especially people who were being specifically targeted by the bigotry of the right-wing Republican campaign.
Mm-hmm. And the inherent white supremacy that happens in our country and has since the dawn of this country and prior to it even. So
Right.
he was speaking to a lot of folks who were like in not great situations, and not just but because like several of them were from super religious or super oppressively religious or very poor things in life where they just like the one guy, Aaron, talked about how he had gone to college and then he went into the military. And when he got out, he felt kind of lost. He didn't really have his community. And, a
That's a
lot of,
very common thing too for people. Like, in the nonprofit that I work with, that's our whole thing, is getting veterans out of isolation and back into community, because the US does not have a system in place to, we initiate into the military, but we don't initiate back into community.
mm-hmm.
And in cultures where veterans fare better, they initiate back into the community.
Yeah.
So that's a very real experience too, of just like, people get out of the military and they're like, well, what now? I don't know what to do. I don't feel like I'm like anybody else. I don't feel like I have my family, like brothers and sisters anymore. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So that is like an added layer to everything else that was going on.
Sure. And, he was just trying, like, and all these folks are trying to find a community. And what I thought was really kind of startling was how many of these folks just picked up and left. Like, left. Didn't say, I'm going to go do this. They just fucking picked up and left. They went and
was it Velvet who said she like literally just like got on her phone, blocked everybody in her family and left that day? Was that Velvet?
That was Velvet, or I think Kendra did much the same thing.
Kendra, yeah. So it was like, yeah. Well, and this is interesting. What I think we should talk about too is because Aaron clearly processed his trauma via learning everything he could learn about cults. He's very like, if he could have been the cult expert as opposed to a former member of the cult, the way that he was talking, like he knows more about it than we do, and we talk about this all the fucking time, right? But he was talking about the levels of indoctrination, right? So first you're just watching, and then maybe you make a comment and people comment back, and then you're part of this community. And then slowly but surely you're creating relationships with the people who are already there in Costa Rica with Natureboy, whose real name is Eligio Bishop. And, they do the flirty fishing thing, like hot guys make relationships with girls. Hot girls make relationships with guys. We see it 100 times. But when it's happening to you, I don't think Aaron was a cult expert before this happened. He didn't know. And then eventually you'll be on a video call with that hot girl or hot guy, and here it pops in Natureboy. And he's talking directly to you. And that's before you even step foot into the environment where he's like basically controlling reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it's what this documentary does really well through Aaron is that he really lays it out. Like, these were the things that happened. This is how I like slowly got taken in. And he got everybody that they speak to actually was very, very deep in. Nobody was like on the outer fringe of this.
Yeah.
Nobody before they left was even pushing back, with the exception of Velvet, and we'll get to that because her story is very
Yeah.
complicated.
Yes.
But they're very open about the fact that they weren't pushing back, which I found kind of refreshing, because in a lot of
Mhm.
these documentaries, you hear people try to kind of hedge their, well, I knew it wasn't right, but these people are very honest about it. They're like, we thought it was right. We did.
Yeah. Yeah. Multiple times they talk about how there was when people were being abused, they just thought, well, that's just a punishment for being
Yeah,
disrespectful to Nature Boy. They just thought that was part of the course, So
right.
I would also like to make one point that I don't know if you felt this way, but the rise and fall of this cult was meteoric. It was really fast, up
Yeah.
and down. Like it started basically, he started in 2015, but he really didn't start the cult where he had people in Costa Rica with him until like 2000, probably late 2016, early
Yeah, that's
2017.
what it sounded like. Yeah.
And then like by 2021, it's basically starting to fall apart. Like that's fast. That's
It
really
really
fast.
is, because normally when we get to the point with the kind of abusive power that we see in this documentary,
Mhm.
it's years, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's something to this, like, we talked about this a little bit when we did the Manosphere episode, this constant live streaming,
Yeah.
and he's constantly talking. So the people were well into the indoctrination and the manipulation before they ever got there. And I
Yep.
think that that's part of it, because in a normal timeline where you just meet this guy and he's like, come with me, you don't you don't have like a year or 2 years worth of hearing all this stuff before you go, right? So I think that's part of the speed that we see. But
Yeah.
then the abuse of power, the literal abuses get so bad that it becomes impossible for this small group of people to maintain it, like maintain the suspension of disbelief that's necessary when you're in a situation like this.
Yeah, there's not the big buildup of like lots of people like I was in that thing for 10 years. Like and most of them you see like 10, 15 years and then they're like or 20 and they're like, I don't know how to get out. These folks were
Right.
in and as soon as they got and the other thing is as soon as they got there, almost immediately the abuse starts. Like there's no easing in, there's no, hey, we'll bring you in, maybe a little bit, but very fast he shows them who he is. And
What
yeah.
I also found interesting watching it is there was like 5 times at least where like the same person or the same people would be like, and that's when it really escalated. And it was just like, the guy Courtney says he goes and he immediately saw that it was bullshit. Um, and you hear like versions of that, but then it got worse. And then this thing happened, and then it got worse. And so it's like it was never good, but
Mhm.
it kept getting worse. But also in that, everyone is saying, well, it did feel really good. It did feel like a utopia. I did enjoy myself. So all these things are really happening at once, which I think is, I've talked about this on the show before too. Like cults are just abusive relationships that affect lots of
Mhm.
people as opposed to 2 people, right? And I think that's kind of it. Cause what we see in relationships, when there's a lot of drama in the relationship, that early feeling of infatuation actually lasts longer, because it triggers the brain to like, oh, I'm scared, I'm freaking out. And then there's like that oxytocin dopamine rush when things
Mhm.
calm down. And then you're just in that constant state. Your brain chemistry doesn't level out the way it does when you're in a secure relationship. And I kind of feel like that's what was happening in this group dynamic. That nobody ever got to calm down long enough to recover from the constant, like, oh, it's so bad, it's so good, it's so bad, it's so good. Because they were bathing in waterfalls and hanging out in the ocean, and you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it's true. Like the Zach said, then
and that,
sometimes it
yeah,
is weird where you're in a situation, and I've been in one, and then I can't speak for you, but like where I was in a situation, there was abusive shit going on, but I was also like, it was like almost like better the devil kind of thing, even though it was bad for me. Um,
yeah,
but I wonder also if there is, since this was this group and it was almost comprised almost entirely of African Americans, and it just felt like here's our tribe, like called it a tribe, and it really was like here's our tribe of people that look like me, that think like me. And I don't get that in America because we're always on edge. There's always something that's a problem or creating issues because that our country is rooted in white supremacy. And like that, just always, there's never, there, even if you are a BIPOC person who has money, even then you're not,
Right.
you don't even feel safe. I can't speak for them. I'm just saying that's how it looks. So I wonder if part of it was like, I have this group that I've never had before that are people like me and they want to
And
make this work. And I wonder if that's part of it. I mean, everybody has that to some degree, but I wonder if it was even more intense because of that.
100%. And I think, like, Zach, I think you nailed it, right? It's bad, but it's better than the alternative. I've seen so many, I go, one of my secret fun times is I go and I read, like, Am I the Asshole in Relationship
Oh, I
Advice on
love
Reddit,
those.
right? And there's so many times where you're like, oh, so I understand that the relationship you're in is better than your last one. That doesn't make it a good relationship, right? So when you're used to things being a certain level of bad, any small improvement feels like the best thing that you could possibly have. And I do think there was a lot of that going on, especially before it got to the real high level constancy, right?
Yeah.
Because you are in a beautiful place with beautiful people. Everybody in this cult was gorgeous. It was like insane. It was like he was casting them, which maybe he was. They didn't say
Maybe.
that, but everyone was drop dead gorgeous, like the most beautiful people you've ever seen. Um, the one Jenye or some she was the one that was gonna be a
Janae.
yoga teacher.
Janae.
Yeah, they do this scene with her and she's in like this white gown and she's in like
Doing like
in the
Tai
hills
Chi
or
or something.
whatever. Yeah, and it was just like, this is like watching a music video. Like, this is like, what is happening? She's so beautiful.
Yeah, she's
And
almost like
velvet.
yeah, she's almost like Janet Jackson kind of looking when she's doing that stuff, when she's doing the Tai Chi kind
Yeah,
of movements. I'm like, yeah, you're right, they're all stunning.
beautiful, beautiful people. That will cloud anybody's judgment, right? It's gorgeous. The weather's good. Everyone around me is hot. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, I think that's part of it. And if you were in this state where you felt unsafe in your home, you felt unsafe walking down the street, that's constant.
Hmm.
You don't you feel that in beautiful places, you feel that in ugly places, but you get to take that away and be in a beautiful place with beautiful people where you're splashing around in waterfalls and going on gorgeous hikes and like working together to build something. And then, there's this awful shit that happens. But then 5 minutes later, you're back to this really beautiful thing.
Yeah. A couple of comments by Zach, and then I want to piggyback on a comment for that.
Yeah.
This is also a really good point. How people are affected by reality TV, and
Hmm.
it is funny where they'll be like, "This was awesome," and I'm like, "You fought the entire time with people. What? How is that awesome? I don't understand."
Well, and what is interesting, right, is like, because we know with reality TV, we get an edit, right? That's the editor's job is to create the story for the most part. I actually know a couple people who do editing for reality TV. They're the writers in the end,
Hmm.
kind of. But in this, like, but what you see affects what you expect, I think.
Yeah,
So it's like, well,
for
this is
sure.
hard. We're, growing our own food. We're pooping outside. It's just like Velvet had that hysterical like journey of learning to be comfortable with it and using the inside toilet, and then there's like an inquisition about who used the inside toilet,
And then she's
and
like,
then
"I
later
just
she's
lied."
like, yeah, and then she's like, look, here's the tomato plant I grew from my poop. Like, which actually, this is, I gotta say this, because the whole thing about the toilet is that Nature Boy felt that toilets were unhealthy, like spiritually and physically, but then they ate food that was fertilized with human poop, which is actually super, super dangerous and risky. And that really threw me for a loop. Like,
Yeah, very RFK Jr. of him.
yeah, I was just like, no, that's dangerous. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So I want to go back to the point you were saying about as black folks, they just walk out the door and they feel unsafe, correct? But
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
but as a woman, I'm sure you feel that way in lots of instances as well. You have to be very careful about where you are. You have to be aware about your surroundings. Like,
Um, I don't necessarily want to compare the two experiences
I'm not saying
because
they're the same, but there's a
right.
slight
Well,
thread
this is
there.
why because so the black women in this documentary were dealing with both things,
Hmm.
you know? And so it is and I live in a very small town that is very um politically divided. And so there is that sense of like I don't know who I'm going to run into and I don't know what they believe. And there is a sense especially having all the access to the information that we have of like what's that metaphor about the bowl of Skittles and like one of them is poison?
Yeah, I
So
can't
you
remember how it
it's
actually.
not all men, right? Well, it's not all the Skittles, but one of them's poison. You know which one it is. And so I do relate to that on a level, but I also feel that there are protections for white women that are not there for black women.
Hmm.
One of the things, and I always get shit when I say this because people don't believe it. One of the reasons that we believe there are more white male serial killers than there are other races is because, for instance, when there's a black serial killer, they don't get labeled a serial killer because those crimes will get like, well, that was gang violence or
Hmm.
that was related to whatever, right? It gets pushed aside. So it's complicated, right? Because being a woman in America is dangerous, but being a black woman in America means you can't even go to the hospital without risking your life.
Hmm.
Like we have the worst maternal morbidity and mortality rates in any developed country. But part of the reason that our rates are that bad is because the statistics are thrown off so hard by how like the massive percentage of black women who go in to have a baby and end up injured or dead. So it's like everything that you could say is a risk or a fear that you have as a woman, if you darken that woman's skin, it becomes exponentially riskier. It becomes exponentially scarier. And that
Hmm.
is something that like is kind of unimaginable, I think, if you're not experiencing it, which I'm not. So,
Yeah. I wasn't trying to imply that they were the same. There's just a thread there.
you know,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, like, and as a straight white guy, I, I don't have any
yeah.
of that. Like, I look like I could walk into a MAGA rally and be fine, right?
Yeah, you just put the
Because
right
I have a
hat
beard.
on.
I'm bald. I have a beard.
I
So
can't.
yeah, you know,
I
you could.
couldn't pass for conservative. Well, my hair isn't green anymore. I'm wearing a hat today. My hair isn't green anymore, so I'm not the and my undercut is
Stereotypical.
grown out. So I'm not their specific worst nightmare, but I am so close to the specific worst nightmare of the rainbow haired chick with the
Hmm.
shaved sides and the septum ring.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah. And
So,
I'm a veteran, so mm.
so all right. So with this Nature Boy stuff, we are in Costa Rica. Oh, that's a goddamn you, Zach. I could do that. I could put Oakland those big fuckers that are
The
like this.
wraparounds.
Yes, I could do that.
Yes.
I won't, but I
Don't
could.
don't get a truck because if you get a truck, then you like your DNA will force you to make videos in it.
Mm,
You won't be able to resist.
I won't be able to just. I'll also be out taking pictures of me catching fish.
Mm. Mezcal in the nose is a new
That.
experience for me. Whew.
All right. So again, we're in Costa Rica. All these folks are meeting him there. Like I said, if they come in at the very first, it sounds and it looks great, and it's that I think also when you're doing something exciting and new like that, and something that's a little unknown, a little daring or risky, and you have all the endorphins going, everything you could kind of push some of the weird things under the rug a little bit until you can't. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think too, it's like they're all just getting there and starting the project. And there's always this little part of you in those situations where you're like, oh, this will level out once things get settled.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's really stressed. We're just starting out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's it's also interesting. Like the Nature Boy is very impetuous, like very whatever whatever flies across his radar that he wants to do, he does. And
Mhm.
so he basically he's advocating for everybody to come together there and kind of basically get off the grid, get out of the system. The system's holding you down. The only thing holding you down is you to get here. Like that was one of his repeated phrases.
Right.
So,
Well, and we need to mention that he's calling it, because this is going to change. And this, usually when cults change their name, they go from bad to better. But this is
this is the
a
opposite.
rare, rare instance. We had a really good name and then blew it. So he's like actually presenting it like they are creating a new nation, which he called Melanation.
Which is a great name.
That's great for what he's doing.
Yeah.
Great marketing. But
Yeah.
it changes later. We'll get there. But I just want to make sure that that's on everybody's mind. Melanation, great fucking name.
Yeah, great name. So starting off strong with the marketing there with the name. So, but he's advocating for just basically get on system. So he doesn't want them to do anything with their passports. Don't get in the system. Like he's just advocating for that sort of. What was the phrase you used before
The sovereign citizen stuff? Yeah.
Basically, so dipping into that.
He said, "Well, this is it, ripped directly from Sovereign Citizen." Something he said. They changed their names because the name on your birth certificate is not your name. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to a corporation. Now, if you're not familiar with sovereign citizen shit, you might not have caught that. But that is the belief that Social Security, like by issuing you a Social Security number, I can't explain it because it's kind of, I mean, the sovereign citizen stuff doesn't make sense, right? Once you scratch the surface. But they believe that you're issued a Social Security number, you're issued a birth certificate, and that is making you not a person to the government. It's making you a corporation or owned by the corporation. I can't remember exactly. So his wording was straight from that belief system that the birth certificates and Social Security numbers make you non-human to the government, which he translated to like being slaves.
Yep.
Which is ironic because he treated every single member of that cult as his personal slave. But that's how he justified making everyone change their names, which again, common cult tactic.
And he gave them the names. Only him could name it.
Right. And again, a lot of these people are very self-aware now.
Yeah.
And they talked about it. It's like, well, he wanted you to know that he had full control over you and who you were in this situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to note because a lot of times the name change is a little bit more like what I experienced in boot camp, where you just change the name of everything that disorients people and it makes them come together. But in this case, it was very like, I'm telling you that your name on your birth certificate made you owned, but in reality, what I'm doing is finding a way to take ownership of you.
Yeah. So I wanted to, we went ahead a little bit on one thing. You started mentioning Velvet before and I cut you off. So I apologize for that. But Velvet came into the camp. Now Velvet winds up with Natureboy, but she doesn't start off with him.
No.
She starts off with a guy who was named Olmec the Ancient, which that's
right.
A pretty cool freaking name. I got
It's a pretty cool name. And he couldn't have been a day over 25.
Yeah.
Again,
he was not ancient.
These are all people, the peak of adult youth, peak physical fitness, absolutely beautiful. All of them. Yeah. So Olmec the Ancient could in fact have been a male model. Like just
Yeah. So Velvet starts off with him. Natureboy also is giving people blessings to be together. You may be with that person. You may be with that person, but you're not allowed to pick your own people, which is very classic cult behavior.
Well, when she got there, that wasn't happening yet. But he was kind of grooming her for it, right? Because he would be like, don't you think you're better than him?
Yeah.
Are you sure you really like him? Are you sure you really love him? And building on this idea of like, he's not right for you, which he then does again with Janae, the yoga teacher. She didn't become a yoga teacher because she did this instead. But so it's like he had, I'm going to say this because we know from what we get later in the documentary that he was in several relationships that were abusive. He was the abuser prior to starting this. And I feel like it was very practiced. This, like, you love me, you don't like that guy, you like me. I think that was probably it. And then Zach has a great point. Wait, did you say Olmec? I have not seen Legends of the Hidden Temple in roughly 30 something years, but maybe. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's fact check this, because I think you might be right, Zach. And it's, it's all this is another thing that cults love to do, is they tell you that they're giving you something really special and fancy and important. And then when you scratch the surface, you're like, wait, like he just pulled those names from Legends of the Hidden Temple, or like, oh, you just get your temple name from the Mormons, depending on like what day of the month you go in. Like,
yeah. Well, what's interesting, Olmec was in the Legends of Hidden Temple, but they spelled it Olmec, which this guy in the documentary spells it
with a
K at
K.
the end.
Yeah.
So there's a slight deviation there, but like that still sounds the same. So
nice little plausible deniability.
Yeah. No copyright infringement. Mine's with a K, not a C.
Yeah.
So
you avoid the whole Patagonia situation. Sorry, go ahead. Let's
okay.
not.
Let's not. So so Velvet ends up like Olmec and her break up. I think she said they were together like 8 or 9 months. So
9 months. Yeah. And she said it was good for like the first 3 months. And then that is when Natureboy's continued interference was like pitting them against each other. She knows what he was telling her. You have to assume he was telling Olmec stuff too, right? Probably the same stuff. In, like, are you sure you really want to be with her? Are you sure she's good enough for you? Which we don't really hear about Olmec, or we don't hear from Olmec. And we don't really hear about him again. And I wonder if there was something that happened because basically he gets them to break up and he claims Velvet as his wife.
Yep.
So if he was playing both sides, Olmec might have been like, wait, you just said that she wasn't good enough for me. She's good enough for you?
Yeah. And Velvet
That's a theory.
Velvet took it as if he's the enlightened person, maybe this is my next level up. This is where I need to go, is to be with Natureboy.
Right. And we hear that all the time. We hear that all the time in these documentaries. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is interesting that we don't really hear from Olmec, or even, I don't even think we really see him after the whole Velvet goes with Natureboy part. I don't recall seeing him after that.
No.
So make me wonder if that falling out made him leave.
That's what I'm wondering. I don't know. They don't say. And, there's people who agree to be involved and don't agree to be involved for a million reasons. And that might be why. But it's interesting.
Yeah. So the thing with Velvet and Natureboy is it reminds me of the relationship of somebody you've seen where the people are just hot and cold and just just the problem is he demands obedience, and she is not a person that takes obedience well. That's not a bad thing. She is feisty.
Yeah. I'm going to say what really stood out to me is that the way that he humiliated her was to tell her in front of everybody, you're supposed to be a queen. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to be regal. You're supposed to be better than everybody else. But then still expected her to acquiesce to him. And it's like, well, you kind of got to pick one. You either want a woman who is a fucking queen and is going to handle her shit, or you want a woman who's going to do whatever you say, but you really cannot have both. And I think he made that mistake twice. He made that mistake when he was later with Janae as well, because she's a lot more calmer energy than what we saw from Velvet in the videos of when the relationship was happening. But I think she was somebody who came into the group with a greater sense of who she was before she got there. And I think that's where the detriment in that relationship was, right? Because she kind of was like, I don't think so.
Yeah. And her, eventually things get bad enough and she leaves. And her escape plan is like my favorite escape plan we've heard from any cold escape. Velvet just being like, I got everybody drunk and high. And then in the morning, I grabbed my baby and we left, and I never saw them again.
I loved it.
Like, what a
I loved
badass.
it. Yeah. Because, and this is important. Every time we talk about a cult where they're living together, control of the children becomes one of the main ways that the leader controls the women. And so, and one thing I want to talk about, because also we talk about this on the show a lot, you are responsible for what you do when you're under the influence of a cult leader, the same way that I'm responsible for what I do after I've had two of these Oaxacan old fashions, right? Like, you are responsible. You cannot slide that off of you and say it's not your fault, because you do make choices. But in this case, and this is true in a lot of situations, Velvet was constantly physically punished every time she stepped out of line,
Mhm.
and her access to her own child was used against her
Mhm.
constantly. And we
Yep.
have a story that's one of the most horrific stories in the documentary, in my opinion. She's holding her baby, and the women come to her and take the baby from her arms and then proceed to beat the living shit out of her, to the point that she has to take time to recover.
Yep.
And this is not something that is unusual, we find out. Now, the beating was worse than usual, but in terms of, like, he would take the baby from her arms to rape her, he would take the baby from her arms to beat her. He would, this is a level of control that I'm almost sure we would see, like, if you could get into the interpersonal relationships with the women that Jim Jones had
Yeah.
children with or whatever, I'm sure you'd see it. But we're hearing it directly from her, and we're seeing a lot of times on the live
Live
broadcasts.
feed. Yeah.
Because it starts out, there's domestics happening, and the people in the cult kind of hear yelling and screaming, and they're like, well, Velvet should probably just do what she's supposed to do. Then it becomes public to the people in the cult, and then it becomes public to the world. And that's very fucked up to me. Like, I know Chantal is someone we meet in the documentary. She is the person who runs the website, The T. She makes a decision to start archiving everything. All these live videos where there's abuse and shit going on, she saved it. She had the evidence, which ends up being really important later. Um, but yeah, when we're talking about, like, she also didn't want the leadership role. And I believe that. And you can see it. You see in that video where he's like, who am I? And then they all parrot it back. And then she's like, who am I? Like, she
Yeah.
does not want to be there, which I think is really fascinating, because there's no doubt that the women he favored got special treatment. But I almost feel like her special treatment was, like, canceled out by the level of abuse that she was experiencing.
Yeah. It's pretty clear that she got, I'm not going to say more abuse, but like very directed abuse by Nature
Yeah.
Boy, like just, and beatings, not just verbal abuse, but like verbal and physical, just beatings. And it was because she would tell him, leave me alone. And like nobody, and he would say, if you disrespect me, that was his big thing. You can't disrespect him, was, and basically that meant
Right.
you must follow what I say and do what I say, or else you're disrespecting me. So yeah, it's, there was one where Aaron said, like, I could hear him beating her, and I just accepted it. Oh, well, she was just
She needed
disobeying
discipline.
him. She needed
I think
discipline.
there's the other side of this, is that he used his relationship with her to groom the rest of the cult members into accepting a certain type of relationship and a certain belief system, right?
Mhm.
Because it wasn't immediate that his teachings became super misogynistic.
Yeah.
That took time. And then he would say things like, oh, well, all of the women have been socialized by the United States to respect white men, but they don't respect black men, and we have to correct that. And that's where you find out that then he started encouraging other people, other men in the group, to physically discipline, in scare quotes, discipline their wives. Because again, in his little bubble of reality, you got married, you didn't date. So
Mhm.
we have someone, oh, it was Kendra. Kendra shows up, she just gets married to a guy. She's never even spoken to him until after the marriage ceremony. Then what I find interesting and lucky maybe for her, I don't know how you want to view it because things get shitty anyway. She sees Aaron and she's like, I think I want to be with that guy, but I can't leave this guy. I don't know what to do. And eventually, Nature Boy's like, oh, you're going to be with Aaron now. So none of these were legal marriages, but
Yeah.
whatever, right? And so I guess the point I'm trying to make, he started beating her, disciplining her, humiliating her in front of the group. And that made it easier when he started saying things like, well, women are demons and women are this and women are that. And we have to, undo the damage of living in the United States. It was easier for people to accept that because they're like, well, Aaron even said the hierarchy started with them on the same level. That's clearly
Mhm.
not true. If I'm on the
Yeah.
same level as you, you can't beat me up.
Yeah.
But they believe that. And at this point, even with all the self awareness that he has, he still believed it. So it's like, oh, if Nature Boy's beating her up and she's his wife and she's the chiefess, she's the queen, she's the whatever, she's on the same level as him. Well, when my wife steps out of line, obviously I have to do the same.
Yeah.
She's got to be held to at least the same standard as the chiefess, as the queen. And I really think that that was insidious and maybe not as easy to spot as some of the other things that he built on.
Sure. And everything was built to make sure it aligned with I am the God, I am the Messiah. And
Right.
he didn't start out that way. He just said I was the messenger and then I'm the teacher and then I am the Messiah and I am the God. It built as he kept getting more and more people involved.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think at one point Aaron says it's cult 101, and it is. It's like we watch so many cult documentaries we did before we ever started the show. We can spot it, right?
mhm.
But I feel like even in this case, you wouldn't have to be a cult expert at all. You just see the timeline and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's cult 101.
Yeah. To your point about abuse, there's also one I want to mention where Ken, Kendra does get to be with Aaron, and they get to be husband and wife without any ceremony. It's just the Nature Boy says you're husband and wife, and voila, you guys are husband and wife according to his rules. But
Right.
there is a point where they're discussing all the abuse between the men and the women, and later the women start using each other. It's
Upon orders, which I do think it's not better, but it's worth mentioning, right?
yeah,
Because I think interpersonal conflict between one on one is very different than a group mob mentality.
yep. So Kendra does mention that Aaron, who's like seems like the most philosophical of all the folks in this docu series, um, said that he was physical with her. Now she didn't outright say it was abuse, but it was pretty clear the way she indicated that basically he probably hit her. And they asked Aaron, "Do you remember this, or are you doing this? Did you do this?" And he said, it's something to the effect of like, at the time I thought that was okay, but I don't align with those beliefs now. He did not apologize. He did not say he did it. He just said, I don't align with that
Yeah,
thought.
he said
And
I
I thought
believed the teachings or whatever, which is like,
that is a cop out to
come
me.
on, bud.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I say this, he was the most educated on cults. I don't
Mhm.
think that means he's the most healed. I don't think that means he's the most self-aware. I know a lot of people, and I'm one of these people, when you're faced with something that feels very emotionally and mentally overwhelming, you're like, well, if I just know enough, it'll be better.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's not necessarily healing, right? I think he's got a few more steps to go. I think everyone in the documentary has a few more steps to go because this is like the kind of shit that you will spend the rest of your life dealing with.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not
Mhm.
a matter of like, are you a good person, a bad person, a strong person, a weak person? It's like this shit happens to you. You're gonna have to keep untangling it. But yeah, I didn't like that either. Because like I said, we've seen this 100 times. You have to take responsibility for the things you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Daniel.
Yeah.
Gotta own your actions.
Yep. And in that moment, he didn't. I feel like he owned some other things, but I feel like that particular one, that was a way to avoid actually saying, "I did that and that was wrong." And that's
Yeah.
he also said at another point, was it him or Courtney? I think it was Aaron that was talking about when things were going bad and he was just like realizing how bad it was. And he's like, well, what am I going to do? Go home and tell everybody I was wrong? And I messaged you and said, that is MAGA in a nutshell.
100%. And I think I've mentioned this on the podcast. I mentioned this to so many people when I talk about MAGA. So I don't know if I've said this on the live stream before. But one of the reasons we haven't done Heaven's Gate yet is because Heaven's Gate wrecked me as a human being once I got the details,
Mm,
right? And what a lot of people don't understand is Heaven's Gate took place over like 20 years. And there's a point at which you understand fully when you have all the information that the vast majority of people in Heaven's Gate no longer believed the teachings, but they still killed themselves. And I think we really need to be aware of how shit like that is going to play out for us as Americans in the coming years, to put it as succinctly as possible. Because we did hear that from 2 or 3 people, right? What was I going to do? How was I going to go back? I cut my family off. I was going to tell them I was in a sex cult. What? And those people were in it for a couple years. They weren't in
yeah.
it for decades. They weren't being cut off.
Mhm.
They weren't being punished. They made their choices and they kind of were in and out in terms of normal timelines we see of the cult.
Yep.
The maggots have been in this shit since 2015, 11 years. And you see it play out. When the narrative changes, immediately their responses change. It's easy to say they have no values. I say it myself, but it is also this cult thinking, which is like, I am too invested now. I have sacrificed too much. I have put my whole, I'm all my chips are in. So if he says this is what is happening, then that's what's happening. And I'm just going to go along with it because it's too painful. I agree, Daniel. There is always a way back and it will not be painless. And that, I think the problem is a lot of people want it to be painless.
Yeah, like you'll see these people will be like, "Well, I'm not MAGA anymore." I'm like, "Congrats, you got a lot of splaining to
Now what?
do." Yeah, what are
Yeah,
you going to do? What are your actions? I don't care what you say. You can say, "I'm done." Great. Are you still going to vote Republican? Okay,
right.
but
What did you learn?
what did you learn? And
What did you
it's
learn and how are you going to repair the damage you've done?
that's the part. How do you repair the damage? Because I have said this multiple times. The thing that I cannot forgive MAGA for is taking my empathy from me in so many scenarios. Like I have so little empathy for people in those and anybody in that sphere because I'm like, you guys, you, it's all right in front of you, but because you're in it, you just feel like you can't back out because I wonder if some of it, and this is going to be a little field, but if you have America's built on this rugged individualism bullshit,
Mm.
and I wonder if some of that is what causes this. Oh well, I can't go because then I'd be wrong,
Oh, 100%.
and I can't be wrong because I forged this path for myself, which means I should know what's right for me.
Well, and we should acknowledge too that the vast majority of cults that we have covered are in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about cult thinking, you can see it in the cults we've covered in other countries, but honestly, like our view of it is very American because that's what we're doing.
Well, if you look at also the cults of the idea of like, so we have this very rugged individualism, capitalistic way of doing things in our country. And a lot of these cults build on, well, let's have a community. And people are missing that. And they
Hmm.
just play on that and pull at those strings to pull people in. And then they go, okay, now I have you. Now I put the clamps down. And
Yeah.
I and then once people get, as the kids say, 10 toes down, you're you're in it. You're fucking, well, I can't go back now. Yes, you can.
Here's the
But
thing I
you're
want to acknowledge too that's very important is the lack of community is a problem that exists no matter where you are on the political spectrum
Mhm.
because my opinion, I don't have like a scientific study to back it up, but I think a lot of people feel like they have community by being online.
Yeah.
Real community requires the kind of nuance that like online discourse never allows for. It requires you to work alongside and support people who you don't agree with everything on. It requires sacrifice. It requires work. It requires,
Sacrifice.
it requires a lot of you. You get so much more back, but it requires a lot of you. And I think we have really, it's hard. It's very, very hard to create community in the United States in this fucking time that we're in. It's probably true in most Western countries, but I don't live there, so I don't fucking know.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes people, as much as we love to pretend, if it's all the people on the right who are susceptible to conspiracy theories and cults and blah blah blah, it's not, right? These people weren't right wing. Natureboy's cult were not right wingers. They were susceptible to it because they saw two things: an escape from the shitty environment that they were in the United States as Black Americans, and two, a community and chosen family. If they had a good, strong community, they probably wouldn't have been as quick to run off to Costa Rica, because that's a
Yeah.
big thing to do on your own.
Yep. And that requires money and expenses and having the ability to get a passport, which is not easy for people who don't have a lot of money.
No.
And like, so it is just, you mentioned the key word there is like, if you want community, it does require sacrifice. And too many people in our culture, because it's capitalistic by nature, which inherently is selfish, and you're so used to your gadgets. I admit it. I like my gadgets.
Oh, me too.
I would love to live in a cabin in the woods, but I want all my conveniences too.
Mm-hmm.
That's not sacrifice. Like, that's just a simple part of it. But if I want to go help my community, it requires a sacrifice of my time. I'm going to have to work with folks who aren't exactly like me, and they might agree with me on 50 to 75% of stuff, but we're not going to totally agree on things. But
Right.
that requires you to get out of a bubble. And I acknowledge I'm in a bubble in a lot of ways. But like, how do I, like, these folks are searching for community, and it sucks because these folks were actually searching for something, and they felt like these folks, again, I'm going to say they look like me, and for a white person, that's not something I have to think about. But for somebody of color,
not really, no,
or somebody who's Asian, or anybody who doesn't look white, they're just like, those people look like me, and that's representation matters, as we always talk about.
Well, and specifically that they valued darker skin, which colorism is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can't speak to it from a place of experience. I can only speak to it from things that I've read and stories that I've heard told to me. But it's a real thing. It's a real thing that really happens, and proximity to whiteness is valuable. So darker skinned Black people have a different experience than lighter skinned people, and being told that the darker you are, the better you are, is something that people do not hear. They just don't hear it. That's not a message that exists in the United States on any kind of mainstream level.
Now, what is interesting is Velvet is a lighter skinned Black woman.
She is.
And she became the quote unquote queen.
Well, because Natureboy's full of shit.
Yeah, because he's full of shit on that. But the idea is like, there were just like Janae and Kendra, and like I said, all these people were fucking beautiful. And it was just interesting that the one he singled out that he wanted to make his queen was the lighter skinned woman. And he had talked about how he was made fun of when he was a kid because he was a darker Black man, and just like a darker skinned Black man. And I was like, okay, that's listen, I get if you're going to try to center, hey, I'm Black, but you want to make it a big tent, whatever your tent is, you want to make it a big tent for people, right? Which is interesting because we had this one instance where this white lady from Connecticut,
two white people
made,
right, but it started with the white lady from Connecticut.
White lady from Connecticut who just up and left, like just left. Like, I'm just so floored by these, like you have to be I'm going to say the word desperate. That's probably not the right word, but
Well, you have
like,
to have you have to have a fair amount of money, like,
oh
and it has to be payday. Like it's like there's so there's that. Also, you have to be privileged and desperate, which is an interesting combination.
yeah. So she goes, and I forget what that lady's name was. She seemed like she was there for a hot
Kayla.
minute. She was there for a hot minute. She was in a video. Nobody knew where she was. Also, she shows up in this Natureboy video. People are like, "Oh, there she is!" Like the whole Leo DiCaprio meme, like that.
Right, it's like she's missing, and then she's just in the background of a Nature Boy live stream as the only
Yeah, I'm
white
right
person
here.
who just stands out. And then that leads to this Portuguese bodybuilder being like, "Oh, white people can join," which
Yeah,
is yeah.
yeah,
And then there were only two white people who we encountered in the documentary. I don't know if more white people did join or not. Whatever.
yeah.
We are halfway through, and we have not gotten to the point where they are politely my headphones keep falling out. Politely asked to leave Costa Rica.
Yeah, and
Politely.
yeah, cool. Politely.
Well, I think it's important because of how Nature Boy uses these videos, and also because it plays into the sovereign citizen stuff, right? So they're on a bus, they're going to wherever they're going, I can't remember, and none of them have updated their visas. Because you get a visa, it doesn't last forever, right? I don't know what the Costa Rican version of a green card is, but they have visas, and these people in the cult did not have valid ones anymore. They'd expired. So they get stopped by the migration police, which is what it's called there. And they're basically like, just sign this shit and we'll stamp your passports and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
And he is like, no, because that's not who we are. Who we are these names I invented. Who we are is this cult, like whatever. And he then says, I will die for this. And that you hear from a lot of the people who are in the documentary were like, I didn't
that
know
was
we were
new.
supposed to. That was news to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it does turn ugly. They do get harmed. This is something I never like. It's very complicated, right? Like, I don't want to make it seem like it is okay for migration police to harm people, but there is a very big difference between what he was presenting on the live stream and what
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Yep,
When he was
for
presenting on
sure.
the live stream was like, they're just persecuting us because we're black and we have this way of living they don't like. And what was really happening is they were abjectly refusing to renew their visas. So the migration police had to take them into custody and they refused to do that. And so by being forcibly removed off the bus, they were hurt. I'm going to take a wild guess and say there's probably more to it than that. The
I'm
migration
sure.
police probably got a couple punches and kicks in that were not absolutely necessary because that is the nature of anybody who's a fucking cop. Sorry, whatever. I'm
Yep.
not sorry. But none of that would have happened if they would just sign the fucking paperwork. They were going to get their passport stamped in the moment and they refused. But he presented a very different narrative.
Yeah.
So, long story short, they all get kicked out of Costa Rica. They go to Mexico because they're going to go to Belize. And then I'm a little bit confused.
No,
It seems
no,
like
no.
maybe they
They get
never
they
make it.
get no. They get deported to Texas, and then they
Oh,
make their way
that's
down.
right.
So they get
Yeah,
deported to Texas because they're American citizens.
right. I forgot about that.
So of all the places to go, Texas, man,
Fucking Texas. Yeah.
fucking
If that,
Texas.
and like, here's the thing if getting deported from Costa Rica to Texas from your utopian society where there's waterfalls and all your friends are black and understand what it is to be a black American, and then you get sent to fucking Texas. If that's not the moment where the shelf breaks for you, like you're in deep.
Yep.
I feel like they probably lost members in Texas.
I
They
do
also
have a
gained members, but
yeah. I also have a question: is how the fuck did they get back into Mexico? I guess their passports in the United States are valid for like 10 years.
well, also, so going to Mexico, you don't need a visa. You get the visa once you get to Mexico. So there's that. And then two, I don't know, they didn't say this, but like it's actually easier to sneak into Mexico than it is to sneak into the US from Mexico.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's like a lot of ways that could have happened because what you're referring to, sorry, for anybody who the documentary is they go to Mexico once and they get deported and then they go again.
Yeah.
So
So they go and somehow they find a place to like rent a Airbnb, I guess, and like
in
have
in somewhere in southern Mexico, which I did you get this? They said they were going to Belize. And then there's a video where he says that they are in Belize and he says where in Belize it doesn't matter. And I was like, that's weird. And then when you listen to everyone else talk, it's like, well, it sounds like they're in fucking Mexico.
well, I thought see, I didn't catch that. What I caught when he said somewhere in Belize, it doesn't matter. I felt like he was doing that to sort of evade any sort of knowledge of where he was, so the cops
Right.
didn't come
But
to him.
later, when Courtney goes to that Airbnb where they filmed that video with the people
Mm,
all in a line and him
yep,
and Velvet at the front, he says, when I got to Mexico.
that is true. That is true.
So I was like, wait a minute.
So
Did he tell them they were in Belize?
can I make one comment about Courtney?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anybody who wears their baseball hat over the tops of their ears, you are a psychopath. That is the most uncomfortable way to wear a fucking hat.
Look, Doug, maybe he has big ears.
I don't give a shit. I have big ears,
He's like, I gotta tuck him in.
and my ears. So the funny thing is, so I had a thing where I slept on one side as a baby the whole time. So my one ear is way flatter to my head than the other one. So like it's weird. So like
Okay, but Doug, you're on camera.
you
You got
can't see.
headphones on.
Look.
I'm just saying that when you go on camera, you have headphones on. Nobody
Nobody
has to know
knows.
about your ears. We don't know how he wore his hat
Maybe
before he
maybe
might be like, I gotta tuck these fucking bat wings in.
maybe he's using that like Michael Landon used to use his hair.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if you know
Isn't
that
there
story, but
something about like doesn't this might be a rumor, it might be unsubstantiated, but I remember hearing something about like Will Smith pins his ears when he does
maybe.
stuff. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe their ears were cold, right? Zach's like, maybe it's absolutely fucking freezing
Well,
in San Diego, California.
wear an Elmer Fudd hat for fuck's sake.
He was in San Diego, Zach. He was not cold.
Also, Courtney was from San Diego and said, and when you grow up in the hood, and I'm like,
Here's the
San
thing.
Diego.
San Diego absolutely has a hood. Because this is it, right? If you want to live in San Diego, and this was true even 10 years ago, you had to have millions of dollars.
Mhm.
But everybody who works at your corner store, works at the restaurant, works the fucking pier, they all live in fucking San Diego too. They just live in parts of San Diego you never fucking see. So I do believe that. Because
Okay.
even like Oceanside and Carlsbad have a gnarly fucking like barrios and probably black communities too, because like it's not like they're only in one part of San Diego. So I do believe that he lived in a shitty part of San Diego. What I wonder is like he made it sound like it was Inglewood in the 90s.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. It was like saying it was like South Central LA back in the fucking 80s and 90s. I'm like, dude, maybe it was bad. I'm not saying it wasn't bad. I'm just saying it feels like
Yeah.
you're making it like it was like the Hoods and the Crips and
Yeah, because he was saying things like a bullet could come through the window any time, and I'm like, look, I know for a fact, like I wrote crime fiction a long time, don't want to research on these things. I know for a fact that there are norteños and sureños fucking everywhere, especially in California. They're every fucking where. So like, maybe he is 100% telling the truth in his particular neighborhood or in his particular circumstance, but it is weird. As a native Californian who's been to San Diego a lot, like I said, there are definitely hood areas. There are. But it's not like the most violent parts of Los Angeles in the worst part of Los Angeles' history either.
yeah.
So he was an interesting character, I think. I think we talk about the
They didn't use it
self-awareness of
much.
everybody. I think he was maybe sugarcoating how early it was that he realized it was all bullshit.
Oh, I
Because
believe so.
he says it was immediate. And it's like, okay, then why did you turn around and leave?
Why did you stay there for 2 years or whatever it was?
Right. Everybody else stayed there for several years because it did not become immediately apparent to them that it was bullshit. But you're claiming that it was immediate. So why were you there? Why were you putting up with this shit?
Good question. The world will never know. So,
Look, I've fucked up in the past and wanted people to believe that I didn't fuck up.
yeah.
So I'm not coming from a place of zero empathy on this. I just think that maybe he's got some more self-reflection to do.
So part of this next part of this journey where they finally get to Belize, apparently. But they were talking about how, I forget who was talking about how they hopped around. Basically, they went to Honduras and like they went back to Costa Rica, and then they did. So basically, they're hopping around Central America. And again, understand this is an abbreviated period of time. They
Right.
basically they're kind of nomadic. They just don't really.
It
It's
kind of
hard for them.
reminded me. This is like for a very specific niche group of people who may not even watch our show. It kind of reminded me of Timothy Leary's story, the LSD professor from Stanford.
Mhm.
He kept getting kicked out of countries and just going to other countries for a really long time.
Yeah,
And so that echoed for me.
yeah.
Ironically, he was in like I think Algeria with the Black Panthers, and they found him so annoying that they like turned on him. They're like, "You got to go back to America."
Yeah.
It's my
Hey, you might
favorite
give us.
Timothy Leary fact.
Yeah. What a good guy, man. Anyway, Timothy Leary for another time. That's a whole other
Yes.
story. So, like I said, they're kind of nomadic, and then they end up back in Atlanta.
Yep.
And what amazes me is, I know they live stream all the time, and people donate, and they do all this stuff. The amount of money they have to be able to just
Yeah.
afford like houses to stay in and all this stuff. And like the one they showed that they were staying was in like a cul-de-sac in what is looks like a pretty nice suburb of Atlanta, right? Like,
I think there's a couple things, right? So you have the incoming donations, and it does seem like he had a very active fan base. And then you also have these people turned over all their money. And then you also
gave them
have,
their credit cards and debit cards, which is like,
which is like, don't do that. But then also it's like, how big is that house at the end of a cul-de-sac? It's not a mansion. It doesn't fit 30 fucking people.
you know,
Not, I
it's
don't know that there was ever 30 people. I might be exaggerating, but either way, it wasn't 6 people living in a 3-bedroom house. It was a lot of fucking people.
how
So,
many people do
God,
you
I hope there was a lot of bathrooms.
how many people do you think there were? Like I remember seeing videos and I don't
Yeah.
feel like it was a lot of people. I don't think a lot of
I
people could afford to.
I think it's this thing. I think it came up in the Nexium episode we did, and maybe once or twice since then. But there's like, there's circles of a cult,
Hmm.
and then there's people way on the outside where they're like, I didn't even know it was a cult. I was just like, I watched like one video a month or whatever. So that inner circle of the cult was pretty small,
Yeah.
which I think is what made it possible for those outer circles to support them.
Mhm.
But it was at least a dozen people. When you watch that video of them standing in a line and then Nature Boy and Velvet are at the top, at least a dozen. I want to say like maybe even 16 people.
Well, there's also the idea where at one point, I think it was in the second episode where they were talking about tiers, and they had Nature Boy and the Queen, and then they had the A team or whatever team of the
Right.
A folks, and then there was the B squad. And the B squad couldn't even talk to Nature Boy; they had to talk to somebody in A group to have them talk to Nature Boy for them,
Yeah.
which implies that there was more people. So maybe it's just like when they were doing the
More,
traveling,
yeah.
doing the videos, maybe the other people in the group weren't the hot folks.
Yeah, or they
And
just hadn't earned their spot. Because you have, you want control over people. You got to make them earn everything. But I also wonder too if part of the reason we don't really know those numbers and part of the reason we don't really see those people is because every time some weird shit happened or they had to move to another country or whatever, that some of those B team people or the people below them were like, yeah, I'm done.
Mhm.
Actually, this is fucking weird. I don't want to illegally immigrate into another country. Actually, I'm good with the 3 we already did it in.
Yeah. Also,
Like,
to that effect, when we mentioned earlier when Velvet left, how the fuck did she get back to the U.S.? I
The
want to hear
only
that
thing I
story.
would,
That is a story I want to hear. How she's a little
the,
baby with her and she escapes and like, how the fuck did you get back to the United States?
I feel like there's two possibilities. And again, they don't tell us this, so we don't know for sure. One, she had access to the money in some way,
Mm,
shape, or form. Or two, if you recall, she talks about when she was pregnant, she was allowed to speak to her family, but she was only allowed to speak to her family with him on the line. But that does mean that it was probably easier for her to
mm.
reinitiate contact than it would be for other people because she had some existing relationship with them that wasn't completely cut off.
Yeah, there was an interesting one thing, and I'm going to speak as a dad here for 1 second. So there's a thing where Velvet, I wanted to say Violet, wrong name. Velvet was like talking to her dad, and she turns the phone, and each person's there, and he goes, "What up, pops?" And if I was that dad,
Yeah.
I would turn 8 shades of red.
Oh
I'd
my
be
God.
like,
Yeah.
"You fucking dick!" I
Did I fucking tell you you could call me that? I don't remember
yeah
telling you you call me
yeah
that. Yeah.
yeah. That just that would have just been like the guy from Inside Out, just like the flame shooting out the top of my head. That guy would have done it. What up, pops?
Was that
No.
Lewis Black that did his voice?
What's that?
Lewis Black, the comedian, did
Yes,
that voice,
yes.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's always angry. Yeah.
perfect casting for that. Perfect casting for that character. But yeah.
Um,
So, like I said, I just wanted to point out that like I wanted to know how the hell Violet. That's like that's a movie on its own. Like I escaped the
well,
cult. I
but
went to the jungles of Costa Rica.
Kendra too. She
Yeah.
just fucking walked out, which now, well, no, she didn't just walk out because neither did Velvet. But yeah, they all had extreme fucking drama. And actually, you know what? Like, we're gonna run out of time. There's so much to fucking talk about with this cult. It's kind of crazy, but I do want to talk about Kendra's experience
Mhm.
because it's what ends up kind of resolving this, right? So Velvet leaves. She takes the baby. Nature Boy does a whole bunch of fucking videos about what a horrible, horrible person she is. Uh, yes, you should call him Pops on Friday. Um,
Sorry,
sorry.
that was ridiculous.
Um,
So
but
Kendra
then
leaves.
he or Velvet leaves,
Yeah.
and so he needs another woman to put on display because that's what I really think it is. I don't like. There's no part of me that believes. Sorry, I'm gonna back up a little bit.
Mhm.
The reason Velvet left was not only because he was beating her. The reason Velvet left was because he was beating her and also forcing her to have group sex with women, also cheating on her in plain sight, also refusing to respect even her feelings about, like, hey, could you just not do it in front of me? He was sleeping with other women in front of their shared child. Like, she had a lot of fucking reasons to leave. And
Yep.
that is part of why I think that having like a main woman was very important to him because by then he had already separated the men from the women. He had already said he gets to sleep with all of them. At one point, somebody says something about like the men in the cult need to find trans women to marry because any woman who's capable of reproduction, he has to sleep with, not
Yeah.
the men,
Yeah. And
the
he
other
puts them
men.
in. Yeah. He puts them in two separate houses too, where the women are in one, and he stays with the women, and the men stay over there, and they can't come in. Like he's just isolating them.
Matters. The idea too to be like, well, you could sleep with a woman who can't have babies, but the only way that I know how to define that is if they're trans women was such a weird jump from all this very traditional stuff that he was like communicating. I kind of was like, oh, okay. So women
That
are evil and need to be disciplined, but like sleeping with trans women is totally fine.
yeah.
Okay.
So progressive, but not progressive, all at the same time.
Right. Just like this weird, yeah. Anyway, so he picks Kendra, who he had been grooming for this moment for a long time as well. She said he would say things to her like, oh, you forgot. She's like, forgot what? Oh, you forgot you were in love with me, which is such a fucking line.
That is an
Like,
incel line. That is an incel
like,
line.
yes, pickup artist bullshit, right? Like a guy would say that to me in a bar, and I would laugh about it for the rest of my fucking life. I would be telling that story. You'd have heard it on this fucking live stream already. But in the situation they were in, it's a lot different. He has control over what they eat, when they eat, how they eat, who they sleep with, who they marry, all of it. He controls everything. And so eventually she kind of succumbs to it, is what I'll say. And so she becomes the right hand woman. And she hates it because he's already created this experience. Hi, Eric Woodman, just because somebody said hi. He's already created this experience that is so abusive and controlling, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do you do? And then, as a lot of the women pointed out, the more he liked you, the more food you got to eat, the more you
Yeah.
got to leave these, like, because at this point, they're just living in a house and they're not even allowed to go outside. They're not allowed to leave the house. And there's like a dozen or more people packed into a regular, everyday suburban house. You could go to a restaurant with him if he liked you. You could go outside if he liked you. You might even get solo time in the shower if he liked you. Like, because I'm guessing bathrooms were an issue in this house. Like, I completely empathize with her being like, all right, yeah, I'm in love with you. Let's fucking do it. But she's not having a good time either because he's doing all the same shit to her he was doing to Velvet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I mentioned earlier, it does make it to the live streams when he's beating Velvet, when he's having screaming matches with her. It makes it to the live streams when he's doing it with Kendra too.
Mm-hmm.
This woman, Chantel, is still like saving it, saving it, saving it, saving it. It gets to a point where people who are watching these live streams are contacting the authorities. In the documentary, it makes it sound like they contact the authorities and the authorities act. I don't believe that's how it happened. I think they were probably contacting the authorities for a very fucking long time because we've
Yep.
seen this. We saw it with Ruby Frank, right? It takes a lot.
Yep. Yep.
And they would get into like the cops would come, right? And if I say I want to be here and I'm fine, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and he would open the door and be like, "Hey, see, I opened the door so you could see everything's good." And all of the followers would be like, "Yeah, everything's good."
Everything's right. So
And what can they go in?
eventually,
And unfortunately, the cops can't do shit. They just can't.
right, it's all
What can they do?
adults.
All adults are all there, and apparently voluntarily, he opened the door. He didn't hide anything. Well, he hid, but like different ways.
The
But
irony is, and I don't agree with this law at all, but it exists. The irony is they probably could have, if they had thought to contact like the county, they probably could have made more progress because that many adults living in one house is almost certainly illegal.
yeah,
Like in California, I think it's like 2 adults to a room in any
yeah,
given house. And if you have more than that, they can kick you out if it's a rental, which this was a
yeah,
rental.
yeah.
Um, so it is kind of weird where it's like, well, if you had been more bureaucratic, you could have made a difference sooner. But I do think that's probably true.
Sure. And they were making the point that the police were there every day. I doubt that's the case. Maybe
Well,
they were there.
here's the
Maybe they
thing.
were quite a bit. Maybe they were there quite
The
a bit.
neighbors probably called the cops too. Because all of these men were beating the women they were in relationships with because that is what was expected of them. And then, like you said at the start of the show, it's kind of hard to believe that the children were not being abused. Like openly abused. Because again, when Velvet as a mother is holding her child and that child is ripped from her arms so she can be beaten, that is traumatic as fuck. There's no way that that baby does not hold trauma, which again, hey, pre-verbal trauma that you don't understand and you can't really remember as an adult, good luck. It's very hard to treat. So yeah, that's abuse, but in a more straightforward way, I think the children were being abused. They were probably being neglected to a certain extent. They probably were not getting enough food because nobody was except for Natureboy.
Mm-hmm.
And they were probably being beaten because discipline was so important.
And there's also the point like Natureboy ate like there was somebody said he ate lobster and he did all that in front of people, and the other people had rice and beans, and he
And
was
then he'd
like,
get on live stream and be like, I'm eating the same thing they're
I mean
eating.
the same. No, you're not. But like that was the thing is like it was the appearance of this is how we live. And there's an appeal
Yeah.
to that. There's an appeal to being off the grid. There's an appeal to not being in the rat race. There's an there's just such an appeal to that whole idea of like, yeah, he was definitely a sociopath,
Yeah. I mean, we're
but
not, we're not his psychiatrist, but I think it's safe to say.
yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assumption. But just he just there's no way that the kids weren't being abused. Like I was just going by what we could see where Velvet's holding her kid and they're trying to pull that kid away from her. That's abuse all on its own.
It's
And
fucking terrifying.
and he would be like, I'm gonna record everything so everybody knows whatever. I'm like, you're recording your own demise, which he does.
Hmm.
It's used against him later, but like it's the other thing. Again, we're kind of ping ponging here. Kendra came in as someone from an uber religious background, was a virgin, and when she got there, Nature Boy was like, "Yeah, you're not going to be a virgin anymore. I'm going to make sure that gets taken care of."
Hmm.
And listen, I think the idea of virginity being a virtue is bullshit. Like, who gives a
Agreed.
fuck? Like, not everybody likes to have sex. There are asexual folks. There are people aromantic that just don't care. But most people have sex, and who gives a rat's fucking ass?
But I also think even if you do not ascribe any value to virginity,
Mhm.
um, if you're sexually driven at all, the idea of like the first time you have sex is exciting and
Mhm.
maybe romanticized to you a little bit. Well, it's definitely, I mean, in the culture, it's romanticized, so
Well, it's
you can't
definitely
escape
not
it.
when you first have it, though.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like, having a choice, picking a partner, even if like, even people who have a bad experience or have sex with someone they don't know for the first time, like if they have agency in it, that is very different than
For
being like,
sure.
you cannot be a virgin anymore, you're gonna fuck that person. Having some level of agency, I like this person or I think they're cute or whatever, like I don't know, it's complicated because I don't take away from people whose first times sucked or like, the weird trope, which I don't think this is that common, but it's a trope in movies all the time. Like, oh, my first time was with a sex worker. I don't think that most people's dads really buy them sex workers, but you see it a lot. I don't know.
That's like a penthouse forums myth, I think.
Yeah. But just the idea to me is like she valued it. It was important to her. So it doesn't matter like what anybody else thinks. She valued it. But even if she didn't, I still think that that is a really weird way and damaging way because the very first time that you have sex, your agency is completely taken from you. And even
Yep.
if you have kind of a disappointing, which most people do, disappointing first time, they had agency in that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wonder what the percentage is of disappointing first times.
Hired in religious communities. I mean, that's studied.
Uh,
I'm not being an asshole. That's true.
yeah, I'm just saying, like, I don't know, like, eh, it's romanticized or it's built up, and it's built up different ways. Like, I feel like
Hmm.
for women, it's built up like this big romantic thing, and men, it's like this. Just I gotta not be a virgin anymore. And granted, I'm from a certain age where we had like fucking Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and all these dumb where
Yeah.
teenage boys need to get
That
laid,
lasted a
weird
long time
science.
though, right? Because American Pie is all about everybody, all the guys needing to lose their virginity in a hurry.
Mhm. Yeah, and that happened. So, but like personally, my first time was it was more disappointing for the person I was with than it was for me, but it was still disappointing
Well,
for me.
that's true of so many straight men's first time.
Yeah,
I just want to
and
acknowledge what Daniel said. Supportive and transparent sex education would make a huge fucking difference.
yeah, so it but to have Kendra have that experience of her like the autonomy of choosing the person, choosing the time, that sucks. That's bad. That's not good. That wouldn't be a good experience at all.
No.
So it just I wasn't trying to hype the virginity part of it, but it was more like our culture really romanticizes this first, or if you're a guy, maybe not romanticize. That's maybe not the right word, but there's like this
I
very
think it's
big
so
culture.
romanticized. It's not made like, it's not made romantic, but romanticized in that like it's a big deal, it's important, it's gonna be so great, especially men are definitely socialized to think it's gonna be amazing because it's a lot easier for men to have an amazing time than it is for women.
Yeah, but the thing is like if you're a teenage guy, you're not going to have like the stamina you think you're going to have. That is not going to happen.
No.
There's just no way it's going to be. Oh shit! This is way faster than I thought, and it's not until I feel like it's not until you get older where you kind of understand things better, where you just go, oh, okay, well, it's much better if I make sure that I am listening to my partner and what my partner wants and try to make sure that they're getting the pleasure they get. It's a much more rewarding experience all the way around. But when you're young and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, like,
I'm gonna say this is so funny to me because, and I'm not to brag, but like so
well,
many
not
young men
humble
in my
brag.
life,
Here goes.
yeah, so many young men in my life were disadvantaged because actually the first person I had a sexual relationship with was pretty good. It
Then
was
you're
really
then
pretty
you're one
good.
of the you're one of the few. You're one of the few.
I know, and but yeah, so and there's a lot of shit about that relationship that wasn't good. So like, there's a trade off, I guess. But the point being is, at the end of the day, I think even if you're very casual about sex, choosing who you have sex with is a big deal. Having autonomy in that is a big deal. And when you talk about the first time, you don't know what to expect. You don't know how it's going to feel. You don't know anything. You want to feel safe. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
easiest ways to feel safe is to have autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
period.
And
Like,
she didn't
the
feel
first
safe
time
or
you
had
do
autonomy.
anything, yeah, the first time you do anything is scary. Exposing your body, and it's she was a woman in America, she was a black woman in America. She was 100% aware of the threat of sexual violence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big deal. Feeling safe is a big fucking deal for women. So yeah, there's so many fucking layers. It's like we do a whole 2-hour fucking show just on that alone.
Yep. So yeah,
Ah,
there's it again, and a lot of these, Nature Boy was very much trying to have women on women action, women with him, and he wanted all of that. So if you're someone who is inexperienced and you're with other women who might be experienced or they're also just as fearful, there's a lot at play at there where if Kendra, who is coming into this being like, I'm trying to find my people and now this is happening, like I can't imagine the insecurity that goes with that.
that
Like
too, yeah.
just the insecurity of being like these women have had sex with him quite a bit because he demands it of them, and I never have. And now they're wanting to play with me because he's forcing them to. Like that's the thing is he of course didn't want other guys to be participating with women at the same time as he wanted just all the women. So
Ryan.
so it I feel like what's interesting is near the end you see Aaron and Kendra talking to each other, and they're still technically married. They're not together, but they're married. They haven't
Do they?
divorced.
But just out of curiosity, though, because this was something I either missed or what just wasn't true. Did they ever explicitly say that they split up?
No, they did not. But it kind of is inferred to me. But like they got
Yeah,
married. They got married in I'm going to say Vegas or Atlantic City. I'm going to say
yeah.
Vegas.
He did the thing that made no sense, where he made everybody get legally married because if you're my wife, you can't testify, which is not the
Yeah,
law.
yeah,
It's you don't have to, which is very different.
yeah. Oh, this is a very good point right here. What if other guys are better at sex?
That's how come the other guys lived in a totally different house and were no longer allowed to have sex with women.
Yep.
Because that's the
Oh,
other thing.
insecurities.
That's the other thing, and that it's present in this cult, and it's present in a lot of religions, mainstream religions. If you value chastity, if you value virginity, the greatest thing that could ever happen to a man is to marry a virgin. And they say it's because of fucking whatever. Here's the real reason: 'cause she doesn't know that you suck. She doesn't know. She's like, oh, this is just what sex is. And if it's good, good for me. And if it's bad, oh, I guess that sex is just bad.
Also, if it's something where you have sex with someone who is inexperienced or a virgin, the idea of like, oh, well, I can teach her to be. Most men are not interested in teaching at all. They're not interested in learning. They just
No.
they just want to be first. They want to fucking put their flag in it like they're Neil Armstrong on the moon. They
I
don't.
don't like the way you phrased that.
I'm saying that's what they want to be able to plant their flag. Like, hey, I was first
But you
here.
said put their flag in it, which is where I object.
That was a poor phrasing, but you know what I was getting at. You know what I was getting at.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just here's the thing. So like TMI, but like when I got divorced, I wanted a woman with kids, and then I did not want a woman who was inexperienced. I wanted a woman who
no,
had
it's
her
fair.
fair share of partners and be like, I know what I like. Great. Tell me and show me, and I am in. I'm there. But like, I was also a 40-year-old man. Like I had
Right.
had experience where I was like, well, I know that was good. Maybe it was. The thing is like there's an empathy you can have during sex that you can't have elsewhere. And if you know your partner's not having a good time, even as a guy, if you have any ounce of empathy, you know it's not good for them. You know it, and you can't be like, well, this is great. Yeah. No, Zach.
I mean, a lot of people are like that. That's the thing, Doug. And I agree with what you're saying on principle. I agree that that's how it should be. I don't think that's how it is for a vast fucking number of people. I
For
think a
sure.
lot of people, and it's interesting because I see it now in women as well. Not nearly as big, but it's like this like pushback where it's like I don't give a shit if he's having a good time. It's like no, we're all supposed to care if our partners are having a good time. Like everyone is supposed to.
We should all care about our partners, and whether it's a temporary or a permanent partner.
Right. But
You should
if you
want
just
everybody. You should want everybody to have a good time. That's the point of sex.
anybody related
Other
to me
than
watching this
procreation.
live stream, just fast forward like 5 seconds. You're not gonna like this. Okay. You've been warned.
Okay.
If you only want to care about your own pleasure, it is so much more efficient to masturbate.
Yeah.
You're gonna get there fast. It's just
You
whatever,
know what
right?
you like.
They
You hit
make
all the
machines
buttons.
for it. Yeah, like fuck it. Yeah, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Do it as much as you want. I mean, don't let
How
it get in the way
much
of your
do you
job.
want?
But yeah, I mean, be careful. Don't miss work.
Okay.
Don't ignore your family and friends. But they make machines for this. It's fine. You don't have to care. But if you're gonna be with another person, you should care.
Okay, Zach.
This
Calm
podcast has
down.
always been hot, Zach.
That's for
Don't lie.
sure.
Don't lie.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah. I did see a comedian once say that this woman tried to give him a hand job and he told her to stop. He goes, because I'm way better at that than you will be.
Who wants to compete with the pro?
I know
Not
all my
me.
buttons. You don't.
And
So,
it's also never going to be as fast. So it's like way more work.
yeah.
Yeah. No.
So anyway,
The point is.
the point
I
is, you go
forgot
to
what
the
the
point
point
because
is.
I lost the point too because we got on
I
this little
did too. Well,
tangent.
the
But
point is that the whole idea around sex and sexuality in this cult was fucked start to finish 100% of the time, but it only got worse, I think. Um, but Kendra made a point, and I think this is so fucking important. And it goes back to actually something Daniel said about how important it is to have comprehensive and transparent sex education. I'm
for
giving
sure,
up that headphone. Um,
it's only
she
fallen out
didn't.
25 times, so it's
I know.
fine.
I was like, what the fuck? It's
Here's
because
the
I
thing:
have
is
a face piercing.
yeah. Well, the
It's
thing
because
is,
I'm a.
if I had one in and not the other, I would feel like I was like this.
I gotta tell you, it's so much easier to hear because when I have them both in, I hear it how it sounds in the microphone, and now I can hear myself the way I hear myself all the time. It's way better.
All right, well,
I
good for
spent this
you.
whole live stream like, is this what I sound like all the time?
You sound like like the Charlie Brown teacher.
Anyway, she kept saying that she didn't know that she was being coerced. She did not know that what was happening to her was rape. And it is so fucking important because I think that is true of a lot of people. A lot,
Mhm.
and men and women alike, actually, because men have a certain messaging about how much they should want sex, and if they don't want sex, something is wrong with them, right? I think it's so fucking important, and it almost affected the outcome of the fucking court case when Nature Boy finally got arrested. That was one of the defense's points. She said, "We made love." That
Mhm.
is a quote from her, and it's true, but that's because she could not comprehend this messaging that we get so often, which is like, for it to be rape, you have to say no. You have to hit and scream and yell. You have to do all
Mhm.
these things. Otherwise, it's not rape. That's not fucking true. He held so much power over her. And in the moment that we're talking about, she goes to leave. She has an Uber waiting outside. He's not letting her leave. He's refusing to allow her to leave. And then he says to her, "Let me come in you one more time," which is fucking disgusting. And then she kind of puts it together like, he doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean if I sleep with him one more time, he's going to let me leave. But he's not going to let me do anything if I don't sleep with him. So she
Mhm.
does. And then she manages to sneak away in the middle of the fucking night. When it went to court, they said, "You didn't say no. You said I went back and made love to him." That's just fucking crazy. She was not being allowed to leave the house. And they're like, "Well, you had an Uber outside, so surely you could have left." And it's like, this is the guy who had his own fucking wife, the mother of his child, in the center of a circle of people beating her.
Yeah, that's not even talking about
You think he's gonna let?
where he had his wife fist fight another woman on the beach and fucking live streamed it.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what do you, and it was said, what was I gonna do? Because if I fought back, then all those people in the circle might fight me too. And that's fucking true. You don't I don't have to tell you I'm gonna beat your ass if you see me beat the ass of every single person who doesn't do what I want.
Mhm.
If I'm standing in front of the door, I don't have to say I'm not going to let you leave. You know I'm not going to let you leave. Now, granted, I think it's just a shitty defense. I think it's gross. I also believe in everyone's constitutional right to have a vigorous defense. It's complicated. But if she knew what was happening, then she also could have described what was happening. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Also, I want to say that Nature Boy's defense attorney fucking hated
He
him.
kind of, yeah,
Just
he kind of,
hated him.
yeah. It
Yeah,
wasn't the most vigorous defense.
no, and he was like at the thing. So they said they did this, and they said they did this, and he said he did this. So you're gonna have to decide because she said they made love. And he didn't make any like this guy's an upstanding citizen. He did none of that shit. He's just like, I'm gonna go
Wasn't
straight to the
his closing
technicality.
statement involved something like, "My client has done a lot of bad things"? It's
Yeah,
like,
and he's like, he he proclaims to be God, but he knows he's not God. I'm like,
oh, that's what it was. Yeah,
that is not a vigorous
he
defense.
knows. He knows. Yeah, it's
And
like, well, okay, but did he lie to other people about it? Because that's kind of why we're here.
and then the funny thing is like he tries to say, I'm gonna fire my attorney. And the attorney is just paging through things like, please fire me. Like
I know, and the judge is like, "I'm sorry, but you actually can't. Like, court has a way of
rules.
working, and you can't just get a new attorney because you want one. At this point in the case, you have to actually have a reason to fire your attorney, or you get a new attorney." Which I'm actually a little surprised he didn't choose to have no
I
attorney.
was
He kind
very
of,
surprised. I was very surprised he didn't
yeah,
choose. I'm going to represent myself because he's the kind of arrogant fuck that
100%.
would have been like that. But yeah,
Which is like the thing about like making everyone get married because your wife can't testify against you. And it's like, buddy, that's not
that's not how that
true.
works.
It's
That's not
not
how any of
true.
this works.
Also, how does that guy over there marrying that girl over there mean that that girl over there can't testify against you? What does that have to do with anything?
It was a little bit interesting with the testifying because you had Velvet testifying against him, you had Janae testifying against him, you had Aaron testifying against him. Like now, there were some people who just like the people who were outside and like the forgive me, I'm
Yeah.
going to make a rap reference to S1Ws for Public Enemy, like the people in the outfits, like he's innocent. And I'm like, all right. It reminds me a bit of the Nexium people who were outside of the prison yelling to Raniere. Like that's what that reminded me of.
I think the other side of it, and this is probably similar, is that a lot of the people sitting outside, they only saw what was on the videos and the live streams. And even though some really heinous shit was on the live streams, that is not the same as living with it day in, day out. Not to necessarily defend it, because I think you should have more empathy than that. But I think the impact of him being an influencer cannot be overstated. And I think that it was actually the Courtney who said, maybe it was Aaron. I cannot keep it straight because I'm not looking at my notes, so forgive me. One of them said they thought when they saw the videos had 500,000 views that was 500,000 people.
Yeah.
They were reading it as unique views. They thought that his impact was bigger. And unfortunately, like, that's just natural. Like, we think that if a lot of people agree with somebody, then they're more likely to be right.
Yeah, that's not how that works. So maybe some internet literacy would be nice. But
yeah.
All right. So let's speed through a little bit of this. It is interesting that they get to the sentencing, and I am not expecting much.
And we never get much, do we?
No, but I'm not expecting him to get the sentence he gets.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, in all of these documentaries, it's like, oh, 2 years or whatever, right?
Yeah, this is not the case. So this person, they say guilty on all counts. He gets life imprisonment for the rape. And
without the possibility of parole.
And then 10 years on top of that, not consecutive, not concurrent, but consecutive.
Right.
Which matters.
Yeah.
No parole.
Because some states have like an actual maximum amount of time that you can be in prison on a life sentence.
Yeah. I don't know if Georgia's like that. Georgia being what it is, my guess is that they don't limit that. That would be my guess.
Yeah. I mean, but the point being, here's the thing that's really complicated about that sentence. And we talked about this before the show.
Yes, we did. You go ahead, because we talked about it. But
nobody ever fucking gets that sentence. And all of them fucking deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. So what's the difference? Well, this is a black guy.
Yep.
And the issue with shit like this is when you look at it, you're like, well, he deserves that sentence. He does. However, so did all these other people. The racism is impossible to fucking ignore. And it's really fucking complicated because he absolutely deserves the sentence that he got. Absolutely. Yes. But he only got it because he's black. It's beyond obvious. We've looked at so many of these calls. Half these people never go to jail at all. More than half never go to jail at all.
What is interesting to me is the way they presented it was like it seemed a lot of circumstantial evidence for this. A lot of he said, she said. There's no video evidence of this. Whereas, like, the only person I can think of that actually got the sentence they deserved out of all of this, really deserved, was Renee from Next.
Yeah. But then all of the other people involved didn't.
Nope. And nobody else in this sphere of Natureboy's sphere, many of whom did some awful heinous shit, got any charges, nothing. So I'm not saying they deserved it, but and in that case, because here's the thing, often I'm rather surprised because it was a lot of black people involved. I was expecting more because that's how our fucking shitty justice system works. But
which is this whole weird Ouroboros, right? Because this is exactly the reason that these people were vulnerable to his influence, is because how fucked our system is and our culture is to Black Americans. But then it's very difficult to wrap your head around.
Yeah, for sure. So
the one solid, well, not one piece of evidence, but the solid evidence, I think, that made a difference because of this, what we talked about with Kendra saying we made love and not understanding that coercion was rape, all of that. I think what we need to acknowledge is that they kind of do Chantel dirty through the first 2.5 episodes.
Yes.
And then they get to why she fucking matters. Without her, he does not go to prison. I think that that's true.
Agreed.
Because she collected every single video, every single live stream that showed him beating women, abusing the men, the level of control that he had. And that, I think, made the difference when she's saying, I knew he wasn't going to let me leave. Well, how do you know? Well, here's 500 hours of video of him beating the shit out of people when they don't do what he says.
Also, there was the idea that Janae, and good on her for being like, I'm going after him after some worrisome, because listen, if you're a rape victim, it is difficult to be able to come forward and say, I'm going after the person who raped me. And she did.
I'm sorry, I said Kendra, I meant Janae. Sorry.
Janae. So, and what they started off was the initial charge was revenge porn, because Georgia has a law for that. And when she left, he posted a bunch of videos of them having sex, and that was not a consensual thing for her. So that was the initial charge. And
Right.
so at least that got the ball rolling towards what he initially.
And it was actually another woman, another Black woman who was watching this as like a commentator. I cannot see her name.
I cannot
Monica.
remember her name.
Monica. She was an observer. She wasn't part of the Natureboy cult, but she was one of the people commentating on it. And she had some back and forth with Janae. So when Janae left, she cut all her socials, but she still had Facebook Messenger. And this woman, Monica, said, you know, that's illegal, right? And so it's actually, to me, really interesting that Chantel and Monica, without them, who fucking knows what would happen? Because a lot of the people that testified against him that were in this documentary, they were still in the cult when this happened. This was the breaking point for them. And it wouldn't have happened without the influence of these two other Black women who were looking out for the women in this cult. And they, had no way of knowing that it would ever come to fruition or anything would come of it. So I think that's very impressive and worthy of mentioning, because it's two people made it possible to break the control he had over this group and get him in prison.
Yeah, they work together to do something that is super important, and like they were able to get this guy convicted, and that's great, because not often are Black women really believed, and I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound terrible, it helped that it was a Black man they were accusing.
100%.
And
it has to be acknowledged.
That sounds shitty, but that is the actual real reason, is that.
Right. And because, again, these were rape charges and unlawful detainment or kidnapping or whatever against Janae, not against everyone he did it to. So again, when you look at that sentence, this is not like Keith Raniere. Keith Raniere had so many charges and so many victims. It took so much more for this one white guy to get the punishment that this one Black guy did. And I'm telling you, Raniere, if you want to look at it like in numbers, was way worse. Way fucking worse by measures of magnitude. So it has to be acknowledged. And it is weird because it's, like I said, it's this endless fucking snake eating itself of the way that racism influenced this whole fucking thing.
Yeah. So any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I'm so fucking depressed, Doug.
It's funny when we were like, hey, let's watch Natureboy. And I'm like, this will be interesting. And they were both like, and you're like, I had to take a break between episode 2 and 3. And I'm like, me too. We're like, Jesus
Fuck
Christ.
Yeah, man. And then, well, okay. Here's my final thought. I'll say this. I think I'll take a cue from Mr. Rogers. You look for the helpers, right? You look for the people, Chantel and Monica, who were willing to put work into this, even though it wasn't affecting them. You look for the strength in Velvet and Janae to get up and walk out. And they had to plan that. They had to make it happen. I think you look at that and there's something good in this. But it's really fucking depressing.
Yeah.
It's really fucking depressing. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. So, sorry, I just hit a background there that I wasn't supposed to hit, but anyway, so next month we're going to hit something that is, I'm going to say near and dear. That's not a term I really want to use.
Near and undear.
near and dear for someone. So this is 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. So
We didn't hear any of that. I was trying to get you in the chat. It doesn't let you talk when the thing is up.
yeah. Sorry. So Jesus Camp is something we will be talking next month about. I apologize that that was what we were doing. It is something my wife went through as a kid. So she's going to watch it with me. She's seen it before. I'm not enthused about watching something that will bring, yeah, fuck off, Zach. How about that?
We're doing this for 41 episodes, and sometimes we still talk when no one can hear us. Whatever. We drink on this.
Yeah, I've had 2 gin and tonics. So yeah, that is a lot for me. I don't drink as much as I used to, which is not a bad thing, by the way. But I'm looking forward to going because anytime I can shit on evangelical Christianity, I'm here for it. So
100%. I think
yeah,
this is going to also be depressing. That's my looking in my crystal ball. But
well, oh, it's going to be depressing, but most of these are, unfortunately. We've had very few where they are not depressing in some way, shape, or form. So yeah,
usually they involve aliens.
yeah, it's usually aliens where it's like, all right, great, that's at least this will be all right.
Yeah,
Like Unarius.
Wait,
Thank you,
Mulder,
Unarius.
our little
Mulder.
alien friend back here.
Yep. Good old Mulder. So yeah, Renee, thanks for all this as usual.
Thank you.
Any final comments before we bow out?
I'm all done.
Yeah, me too. So like I said, if you want to watch this is on Hulu. Just be prepared. It's fucking depressing as shit. So yeah, this is you're welcome, Daniel. It'll be depressing, but you have alcohol, which I guess, yeah. Maybe that's not helping our cause.
Yeah, Zach, you're really like, don't throw us. You do that like that thing where when you're walking out of your therapist's office, they like throw something at you. Don't do that to us. You're not my therapist, Zach. Don't make me think about my relationship to alcohol in this show. We are not on Hulu yet.
Man, that would be awesome.
Look it up, Hulu.
Yeah, look it up.
Bob Netflix, or to steal from Trixie and Katya, Bob Netflix, or Joe Hulu, I assume is his name.
Yeah. I will say Netflix does do video podcasts.
They do.
So anyway, folks, we'll see you next month. I believe July 7th for the next installment of this show, Cult Bar Volume 42. It'll be Jesus Camp. So we'll see you then. Tell everybody, take care of yourselves.